Greetings and welcome to the first official episode of the Feed the Youth podcast, or the Feed the Youth segment on the Chow Life channel. Firstly, I want to say thank you once again to each and every person that will join and watch this video. You will officially be the first supporters of this organization, this movement, this goal that we are trying to achieve, which is to feed the youth. There was a pilot shot for this last year in December, so it has been a while in the making, and I'm glad to say that I finally decided to make this video. For those that don't know what Feed the Youth is about, we might release the pilots, and that will give you some insights either before or after this. There's also an episode on the Chow Life podcast itself, delving into Feed the Youth, where it comes from, what we're trying to achieve. So let's get into it. The goal of this is to really interact and engage with the youth on topics that we feel are important. I have a team working with me to come up with the themes, come up with the topics, and how it will operate is I will just go into discussion on a specific theme or theme-specific topics, give sort of the outline, lay the groundwork, give my insights of my team that's worked with me, and we're going to let the video marinate for about a week, 2 weeks, depending on how the traction is, depending on how the following is. And then we're going to go live with y'all as the youth and engage on the topics, engage on the themes, engage on the things that were said in this podcast, so that we really have an engagement with the youth. So that's really what the Feed the Youth podcast is about. It's a bit of a different spin on the podcast. We really want to interact with the youth. We really want to create something meaningful, something positive, something that can help the youth long term. So yeah, welcome to it. I hope you enjoy this episode. Obviously, like we've said on the Chow Life podcast, everything starts at some point, but you have to just start, and that's what we're doing once again with this. So bear with me. It might not be the greatest episode, it might be the best one ever. We shall see. I thought quite a while, quite a long time, from the time of shooting the pilot for the segment in December, about what should the first episode be. I mean, there's so many relevant topics, there's so many relevant themes, but you also don't want to be a cliche, because we want to speak to the youth, or I want to speak to the youth from a youth perspective. So, there are a lot of cliches, a lot of things that the youth is told from people that aren't in our position, that weren't in our position, even though they claim to have been young at one time. It was a very different time. I mean, not so long ago, there were claims that the youth is lazy and we are looking for handouts for jobs. But in the end, I felt that the best place to start is at the basics. Obviously, we have a lot of pressing issues, a lot of socio-economic issues that we will delve into and discuss. But I wanted to start on a personal level, on an individual level, before we can talk about building a society as the youth. So I landed on two topics, faith and intention. And those are the two topics I really want to get into today. It just came to me along the way personally. Going into the new year, I really wanted to set intentions. I really wanted to be deliberate with everything that I do this year. Move with intention, move with purpose. And with that, I realized that when you move with intention, you need to have faith that your intentions are for the best and that it's going to work out. So I kind of came to the conclusion that faith and intention go hand in hand. And that's where we're going to start. That's where we're going to feed the youth first. So we're going to feed you from the inside, pause, and then move on to feeding society collectively. So yeah, let's get into it. Faith for me is, and always has been, such an interesting topic, such an interesting concept, because, I mean, what really separates faith from delusion? What separates a faithful person from a delusional person? Because faith is nothing more than sheer belief that things are going to work out, things are going to go your way. And on that note, I must say this is where the interactive part comes in, because a lot of what I would say would be my opinions. Even team members and colleagues that have worked with me on this and are part of the Chow Life Association will join when we go live and give their inputs. So bear with me. If you do disagree, if you do agree, either way, we will have a conversation about it. So yeah, what is faith other than, the sheer belief that things are going to work out without any really logical proof behind it? And I think that's also where I want to go personally. So my journey with faith has been a very interesting one. I would like to say that I grew up a very spiritual person. Spirituality has always been a big thing in my life. But I've always also been a very logical person. And I think for the most part, they coincided well. But looking back, and this was really a reflection that I made at the end of the year, once I finished my studies in this transitioning phase of starting work, moving into a new place in my life, I had to look backwards also to see where I'm going. You have to put everything into perspective. And I realized in this journey of educating myself, I kind of might have neglected my faith in certain ways, but at the same time, I felt like I always had faith that I do well, and I always had faith in myself. So that's the first thing that I want to put to you. What do you put your faith in? As the youth, do you think that us as young people put our faith in ourselves and no one else? Because who else are you to put your faith in this time and day and age? We live in such a individualistic world. Can you really put your faith in another individual? Religion, do we put our faith in religion? Personally, I've started to reconnect with my religious side, and I feel like faith is really the cornerstone of anybody's rootedness in their religion. You can't really follow a religion if you don't have faith in what you believe in. Faith that your God is working for you and that everything is a divine purpose, so to speak. So that is my first question. Do you think as the youth we are faithful? Do you think the youth has a lot of faith in themselves, in our society? I think in the world we live in, as young people, we do tend to have a lot of faith in ourselves. I think we're very resilient, and we always have a belief that we will do well, which for me I find interesting because we don't tend to have a lot of faith in anything else. Personally, I don't see a lot of people having faith in society, which I can't say that I blame, but I do feel like we need faith. We need that delusion, because like I said, for me, faith and delusion, very, very similar, very slim slope between the two. So you might say, why would we have faith in our government? Why would we have faith in our society? Well, because that's all there really is right now. So what are your thoughts on faith, and how do you maintain your faith? Because I think when I look back at it, my distance or my backing away from my faith in a lot of things, a lot of people, a lot of views came from my own personal situations. So how do we, as the youth, look past our current situation? Not to downplay the situation we're in, because there are some dire situations. Unemployment, like I said, is on the high. Violence, opportunities are limited. So how do we look past this situation that we're in and have faith in the future? What gives you faith in the future as a young person? When you wake up in the morning or when you go to bed at night, what gives you the faith that tomorrow is going to be a better day? Or do you not have any? And if so, why not? And if that is you, I'm very interested and very eager to know, how do you move and navigate through life? Because for me personally, I think for the large parts, I've always kept faith in something, in myself, in a higher power, something. Because then what's the purpose? If I don't believe that things are going to get better, then why try? So I'm not saying that you don't try, but I'm very eager to know what makes you try if you don't have faith in the future. And again, I'm really curious to know, as a young person, what has helped you maintain your faith? Have you transitioned from having faith in others to having faith in yourself? Or have you transitioned from having faith in a certain religious view to another view on life? And what has caused these shifts and changes amongst us as young people? And do you think as a youth we are more faith driven? Do you think we have more faith in ourselves in society, or do you think those before us had more faith? And if so, do you think, or rather not do you think, as a young person, how important do you think faith is in achieving your goals? Because I've said so far that I really feel like faith is the cornerstone of a lot that I've been able to achieve and do. And I think it's been for a lot of people that have come from challenging circumstances, because you don't have anything else really. So if not faith, then what do you think is that thing that makes people push forward when there's nothing else? Some might say, responsibility to others. Maybe that is very much real. Some people do it not because they want to, but because their little brother needs them to. So there's a lot of elements, I'm sure, to this, and I'm really interested to hear your insights and views. But I don't want to make the first episode too long. I really want to kind of give it the air to breathe, let people process it. And I'm really looking forward to the interactive parts of Feed the Youth, where we come together and really engage on what is said in the topic. Because I feel like that's a very different element to a lot of podcasts. It's very seldom where, besides the comment section, you actually get to engage with the podcast, the person making it, give your insights and get responses. Obviously, there's a lot of podcasts out there that do take the time to respond to comments, and I'm not sure they probably have physical meet and greets, all of those things. But Feed the Youth is not just a segment on a podcast. It's in the process of becoming an official MPO. So there's a lot of other stuff that we are going to do, in relation to employment, education, food security. And those are things that we're going to discuss on this topic or on this podcast. How do we, as the young people, secure better education, better employment, better food security? And I know that these are topics that are very much widely discussed, but whenever I hear these topics come about, it's very seldom that the youth are put forward to speak on these topics. It's always those that, sorry to say, don't have much longer on this earth, so to speak, not to be negative, that are planning the future and how we're going to curb unemployment or solve world hunger. So I really want this to be a platform where young people discuss these topics and really, put a different perspective on it, which also goes to the next part of this podcast, intention. Me personally, I've deemed 2026 the year of intention. I think I might have spoken about it a bit on the pilot. Apologies for alluding to that a lot. I don't know if it'll ever come out. I hope it does. But intention. So for me personally, I have deemed 2026 the year of intention. And when I deemed it the year of intention, I knew what intention meant, but I didn't really comprehend what it means to have a year of intention until I sat with it. Because we do a lot of things as humans, as individuals, unintentionally. Another word for unintentionally could be subconsciously. So we do a lot of things in autopilot. So to be intentional sounds easy, but it's really a constant effort to put your mind to it and know exactly what you're doing and be fully incorporated into it. Because I'll put it to you like this. Lent is coming up 2 days from now when this episode has been, or 2 days from this recording that you are going to see, maybe before that, maybe after that. But Lent is coming up in 2 days, and again, because this has really been a transitional phase, in my life, this year is really a transitional phase. I decided to participate in Lent this year, which I haven't done in a while. And leading up to that, I wanted to kind of get my mindset right, prepare myself for a lot of the things that I'd be leaving behind, a lot of the changes that I'd be making. And I found that most of the time, unintentionally, I'd be doing those things, such as, maybe smoking, maybe for other people it's junk food. Like, a lot of the time you don't realize it until the cigarette is in your hand or until the bowl of ice cream is done, that you ate this thing. So that's when I really started to look at intention. And I'm always been a very busy person, and I always felt like when you overthink it, which I've done a lot in my life, I've overthunk a lot, if that's the correct term, and it tends to stop you from doing things. And I feel like towards the end of last year, that's kind of the situation I was in. At first, I was very happy that I got a lot of things done in a short period of time. After there was quite a bit of delay at the start of the year, I delayed myself by overthinking, over planning. So when it came to the end of the year, I kind of just wanted to get as much out as possible, and I did do that. But looking back, the quality wasn't there, the intention wasn't there, and that's one of the first things I want to put to you. How do you strike that balance between being intentional, being deliberate, but also not just being in your head? How do you strike that balance? And what does it mean, or rather, how do you keep yourself intentional? What do you tell yourself? What are some of the things that you have intentionally left behind, or maybe picked up? It could be habits, it could be skills, you know. Us as a youth, I feel like the only way we'll grow is to teach each other. So I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from hearing someone else's story on how did you intentionally do this? So how did you intentionally achieve this? What kept you intentional? Because I mean, the world is so busy and everything is just moving that it's easy to just get lost in the flow of things, and that's why a lot of the time life passes you by. And that's what I feel like intention does. Intention slows down things, but it makes it worth the slowdown. So I've personally, for me, for example, when I want to remind myself to be intentional, I think of the phrase measure twice and cut once, and that's helped me a lot. So I'm curious to know from you, what keeps you intentional? What also has been your barriers? And I think this can also apply to faith, because life is hard, and I would like to say that in our modern time we have more temptation because we have more options, more resources than any generation before us, and it's a blessing and it's a curse. So it's very easy. I mean, let's not be delusional or let's not be oblivious to the fact that we live in a very challenging time, and that's not an excuse, but it's very easy to accept that things aren't going well and there's nothing that can be done, or it's very easy to just get distracted. There's so many distractions in the world that will take you off the struggles of this world. So what keeps you intentional? What keeps you resisting these temptations? And what are these temptations that do come along for you that throw you off the path, or that take you to the side? And how do you bring yourself back? Because one thing that I've done in this journey of being intentional is I've stopped looking at my life, so to speak, at least for this year. Every year is different. For the time being, I've stopped looking at the year as months, rather weeks. So I rate my weeks by week, and I don't compare this week to the next week, and I don't carry this week into the next week. So if this was a 5 out of 10 week, and next week is a 10 out of 10 week, and the next one is a 2 out of 10 week, it's just the week that it was. And another thing that's helped me keep the faith and keep me intentional is that a bad week is not a bad year, and that really has put things into perspective for me. A lot of the time one bad day can just throw us so off, because again, as much as there's the distractions and the temptations and the struggles, there's also the other side of it where there's this, I don't want to say illusion, because there are genuinely so many young people out there that are successful, that are doing great, and it should be motivational, it should be inspirational. And I think for a lot of young people that was or is the intention with the things that they do. But I think the way that things are controlled, or the way that things are presented, when you're at the bottom and you see all the glitz and glamour, it makes it seem like you're not doing enough, or you're so far behind. And that's something that I'd want to urge all young people that are successful, or that have achieved what they wanted to achieve in life. Show more of the struggle. I mean, there's a lot of people with good cars, big bank accounts, but I mean, and that's not the only things that matter. I think that's also the illusion that young people are very materialistic, and that might be a topic for another day. But I feel like there are also a lot of young people out there that want, just a good family, a good home, because they didn't have that, or to get a good education, or to give back, all these things. So there's different things that we're trying to achieve, and there's always someone that has achieved it already. And I think in the past, the struggle was more highlighted. Maybe the struggle was glorified too much in the past, and that I also disagree with. I don't think struggle should be glorified, but I do feel like it's important to show the struggle to someone coming up, so that when they hit a stumbling block, they don't feel like, So I would urge every young person that is successful, that has achieved what they want to achieve, when you post your success, let them know the failures you had to go through. And that's something that I also feel like I intentionally want to do with my life at all times. I don't ever want to perceive or make myself seem perfect, so I always try to keep it, as real as possible, as genuine as possible. But again, in this world, you think twice about showing your flaws, and that's another thing. I mean, I'd like to think that we are more accepting generation than other generations, but there's levels to that, and I feel like that is also something that we could discuss on another podcast. Are we an accepting generation, or have we just shifted to accept different things? And those are things that we'll be discussing on this podcast. I really didn't want to make this episode too long. I really wanted to get it out there. I feel like we're gonna make this one right out probably for the rest of February, to really get the promotion up, to really get people engaging, so that we can do the live and have a lot of people there, and just to set us off on the right foot. So I'm keeping the video short and the themes clear: faith and intention. Anything that you want to say about faith, anything that you want to say about intention, anything that you want to comment on what I've said, add, disagree, it's open. This is Feed the Youth, and we're here to feed each other knowledge, feed each other love, feed each other whatever it is that the youth is starving for. And that's what we're here to find out. So before we can go out there and feed the youth with the MPO, the actual MPO of Feed the Youth, this podcast is meant to basically tell us, what is the youth starving for? And I hope that we can achieve this together. Once again, Chow life. Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to feed young people so that they can go out there and enjoy life. You can't enjoy life when you're hungry. So we want to feed you, and then go out there and enjoy the fact that you struggled, you're full, and pass it on. So that's what we're going to be doing here. Thank you to each and every person that is going to watch this, is going to post this, is going to follow us. This is a segment on the official Chow Life channel on YouTube. Links, all of that will be put here by my fellow partner, Shomla. He's not on this podcast. He'll also have his own segment that we're looking forward to. There's a lot coming. There's always a lot coming. Stay tuned, stay busy, stay focused. Chow Life.